So we're talking about a budget that is a third in deficit as we project forward. How's this happen? Well, there's a continuing decline in revenues and a continuing assumption of increase in spending. And so, for instance, there's certain spending that we have difficulty controlling. Medicaid, for instance. Medicaid is projected next year to go 19% higher. Now, why? Well, some of it's about us not controlling expenses as well as we should, and we're going to do much better on that. But even if we do that, when you have more people laid off, more people becoming unemployed and losing their health insurance, you have more people who are going to come onto Medicaid. And the expansion of the number of people on Medicaid is going to push growth. And so while there's some things we can do around the margins there really is not a whole lot you can do because you're going to be providing people with at least some measure of health care through the Medicaid program, and the state pays for 50% of that, and the federal government pays for 50% of that. What else is going on? Well, you know, we have a situation where last year, aid to education, that K-12 education, $1 billion of that aid that went out last year, somewhere close to $9 billion, was one-time federal stimulus money. Not coming back. I was with the president 3 weeks ago. One of the things he definitively said is that kind of aid is not coming back. So you immediately start with a $1 billion hole in your K-12 education budget in a time when the state has declining revenues. In addition, we spent about another $700 million of one-time money. You may have read about some of it. New Jersey Transit last year got $160 million in one-time stimulus funds. Well, what did that do? That helped Governor Corzine push off the inevitable, which was a fare increase. So in an election year, he used $160 million of that money in one shot to push off a fare increase. So what do I confront this year? $300 million deficit in New Jersey Transit. $300 million deficit in New Jersey Transit. So, you know, I heard a member of the Assembly a week or two ago say, this is outrageous that we're increasing fares in New Jersey Transit. I don't think there should be fare increases. I don't think there should be service cutbacks, and I want the state to keep the subsidy at the same level it was before. I said to myself, man, I should have made this guy the treasurer, because that's a miracle if we can actually make that happen. I mean, there's lots of things I'd like to do too, except I don't know where I'm finding the money to do it. And so there hasn't been a fare increase at New Jersey Transit for 3 years, since January of 2007, and there needs to be a fare increase. Not because I want to have a fare increase in New Jersey Transit, and not because I think hardworking people who are trying to get to work and are taking our buses and trains should have to pay more, but because we've got a $300 million deficit to fill. And my view is the state will continue to subsidize a very large amount of NJ Transit's budget. Well over 45% of NJ Transit's budget will come from direct state subsidy. So do we need, as we continue that subsidy, to also ask the users of New Jersey Transit to pay more? You know, we were hit with a whammy at New Jersey Transit, 4% decline in ridership because of more people being unemployed, increase in the contracts to workers there, which we'll get back to, and at the same time, you're having an increase in fuel costs and other things that drive the cost of New Jersey Transit to a $300 million deficit. What else do we confront? Now, you got $1.7 billion there in one-time stimulus funding that is not coming back. So you start to add up the numbers to $11.2 billion, and you know that every program in state government is going to have to be up for consideration and, in fact, probably for cuts. That's going to affect everybody. This is going to have to be a shared sacrifice by everyone. Because in the end, in my view, raising taxes is not an alternative any longer. We just talked about how uncompetitive we are in New Jersey because of our high tax rates, and you will have some who will say to you, just raise taxes again like Governor Corzine did, take that rate back up to 11%, because it's easy to say, well, it's just rich people, people who make over $400,000 a year. Except the problem is in New Jersey that that individual tax return is also used by most of your small businesses. So for those of you who own small businesses in the room, or know people who do, if you have an income in your small business, not a profit, an income, of $400,000 or more, and you file it through the personal income tax return, that raises small business taxes. Why would we ever want to raise taxes on small business at a time when we want small business to be spending their money to create jobs to put people back to work? In addition, business is going to get a big tax increase come July 1st, because here's another problem that we have to deal with this year. The Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund is broke. It's $1.6 billion in debt to the federal government. Why? Because over the course of the last dozen years, Republicans and Democrats, both as governor and in the legislature, have stolen over $4 billion from the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. Now, Governor Kane set this up. It was a great concept when he did back in the 80s. He said, we'll charge a certain amount in the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. Employers and employees pay in together. And during good times, we will build up a huge surplus in that trust fund, which is not to be touched. And then, when we get bad times, we will have that money to draw on to pay to our citizens who have paid into the fund. What happened? What happened was the folks in Trenton, addicted to spending, papering over the problems we talked about before, took the money. Said, we'll deal with it another day. Well, guess what? Today is the day we have to deal with it. Because we borrowed $1.6 billion from the federal government, and that's ongoing, just to pay for the unemployment benefits that our fellow citizens are collecting right now. And I think we all would agree they deserve to collect them. They paid into the system. They paid taxes along with the employers. But if we don't do something to fix the system now, those employers, both small and large businesses, some of them will pay a tax increase on July 1st as high as 225%. Because it's all by formula. If you're this much in deficit, you have to raise taxes this much. Governor Kane did that because he knew that politicians wouldn't have the will to raise the taxes as much as they would need to make the fund solvent. He wanted the fund solvent, so he put an automatic system in. Now we have to face that, and that's why I've suggested some ways to fix the program that's shared sacrifice. For any new employees who become unemployed, not people who are on unemployment now, but after the start of this law, they would get $50 less a week in unemployment benefits. Instead of $600 a week maximum, it would be $550. At the same time, they would have a 1-week waiting period before they could collect benefits. Not 1 week less of benefits, they'd still be entitled to 26 weeks. Just wait a week. That combined with also raising taxes 17% on employers on average would bring the fund to solvency quickly over the course of the next couple of years. And just so you understand how rich New Jersey's benefits are, at $600 a week, we give the second richest benefits in America. At $550 a week, we'd give the third richest benefits in America.